Hi, it's Chris. I don't know how many people caught the press conference of police officers. That is something you do not see very often, a bunch of police chiefs all in the same press conferences. They seem fairly pissed, and on one hand, obviously, they should be. We all should be. But what they were pissed about is their own police officers have been catching strays from these ICE roundups, and they've been pulled over, blocked, sometimes had weapons pulled on them, and their police officers, you would have to assume, have been vetted pretty thoroughly. And I don't know what the circumstances of all of them are. I don't know whether it's simply being pulled over, or they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But when you start pulling over police officers and correction officers and people that have some authority of their own, it is fascinating to watch how all of a sudden, oh my God, we didn't know this was happening. One of the reasons why this angers them so thoroughly is nothing will piss off somebody more than having to endure something that they think they're above. Like, you can watch videos of police officers getting pulled over in traffic stops. You don't see the ones that get pulled over and go, oh yeah, I probably was going too fast. And, they might even have to take a ticket. The ones that are fun to watch are the ones who are like, yeah, I work for so-and-so, and then are incredulous when they aren't just allowed to continue on their way. A good example of that is the ICE agent that got pulled over in Florida. I think it was for a DUI, and he was pretty visibly lit. And he was so incensed that he was a Fed, so he should be allowed to go on his way because he's technically above local law enforcement, but nobody's above the law, supposedly. And even in that traffic stop, even was pointing at people and was like, oh, you look like Dominican or something. You look foreign to me. Outrage that you see. As I said, nobody likes getting treated in a way especially when they think that they have some sort of privilege that allows them to not have to deal with that. So, honestly, it's the best thing that can happen. I sincerely hope that if ICE keeps rounding people up randomly, that they keep catching people in law enforcement, in the military, catching veterans, people, and really, unfortunately, getting the same treatment, because people have so little power. If you get pulled over by or blocked, or they drive their car at you and stop you in the middle of the street, there's very little you can do. Not legally. There's very little you can do. But when it happens to police officers, they feel like, oh, this shouldn't be happening to me. And it's like, yeah, it shouldn't be happening to anybody, but it's also happening to you. So at some point, perhaps some police departments will side with the people protesting. And it's a weird, so politics makes strange bedfellows kind of thing. But I don't know what else you hope for. You have to start either getting local law enforcement on side, or National Guard. You run the risk of them being federalized, and then you have civil potential, that's potentially civil war and not just civil conflict. We are thoroughly in a civilly conflicted place. This is no longer a place that feels particularly safe for a lot of people. And it's God, even there are times when I catch myself looking at a van or, an SUV a second time, because you just never know at this point. They run around in unmarked vehicles. They run around sometimes in plain clothes. There's been reports of, in Seattle, a couple of times where plainclothes people came to somebody's door or hopped out of a van and tried to start a conversation with somebody, claiming that they're from ICE. How do you know? How do you fucking know? How do you know if there's just some rando goober MAGA nut has just decided to help out the cause. If you are pulled over, if you're pulled over by local law enforcement, it's generally by a very obvious vehicle, sometimes undercover, with red and blue lights, which are incredibly illegal to have if you're not law enforcement. And they generally, even then, have ID, have a badge. Like, they will generally show it to you very, very readily because they want to prove that that's who they are. When you have a bunch of people that can openly shoot somebody and then flee the scene as a law enforcement officer, that is wild. You just don't see that from law enforcement, actual legitimate law enforcement. If you are in a situation where you have no choice but to pull your weapon, there's a whole process that has to happen. There's exit interviews. There's going to be an investigation. Typically, it's either by an internal agency within that law enforcement body that independently investigates, that the department itself doesn't have a lot of control over, or it's an entirely different agency. They keep saying the FBI has the evidence and whatnot from this last shooting, but they're conducting the investigation. That is wild and incredibly inappropriate. It's supposed to be a protect and serve situation. And at some point, you've got to hope that they keep seeing these things happen. And it occurs to them the people they're trying to protect and serve are in danger from a rogue federal agency. I don't like using that term, but I don't know what other term you use in this situation. At some point, they're going to start trying to bring in the National Guard to some of these situations, to some of these cities, some of these states. And then you're opening up a whole other thing. You're opening up Trump potentially bringing in the paratroopers he was talking about dropping off in Minnesota. I don't know if he literally wants them to parachute in, which, who knows at this point. He's a grown adult that likes sitting in fire trucks and honking the horn. I mean, I guess I'd like that too. I think he did it in a garbage truck, didn't he? I mean, just wild. I think that things are turning in a way that I can only hope that there is some overall realization that we have from, if not national Republicans, but at least the local ones, and we can start to demand that this stops. The other thing I want to bring up, there is other tools at play, and one of them Minnesota used, I think last Friday, and that's a general strike. I think we're finally in a place where if a city sees that they're targeted next, I don't know how you don't make the case that you shouldn't just shut that city down. Every union should be talking right now to every other union in their city and just preparing. I know strike funds and things are for negotiation with employers and whatnot, but I don't know what other tools there are other than what's left of unions in this country all getting on board, shutting down cities entirely, and honestly working with local governments and being very honest. Like, hotels are hugely important. If you could shut down a bunch of hotels, you can literally just give them no place to sleep. I know a lot of places have stopped letting them in. That's a ballsy move, and I appreciate any business out there that has the nerve to tell a bunch of masked people with guns, no, you can't use our bathroom, sorry. But I don't know what else to do. It's going to have to come to people in these precincts, in these cities, coming together and resisting as an entire city, because that's where most of these operations are taking place, in the large cities of this country. And I know, like, financially people are not doing well, and it's hard to sell something like this when people are struggling. But man, I think we're coming up on some times where we're all going to struggle anyway. When all of these other countries stop making deals with this country and start making deals with each other, when they realize they can, for example, the US and Europe together are like 45%, somewhere around, of the GDP of the world. When Europe just says, well, we'll just trade with us, Canada, Japan, South Korea, South America, everybody else can literally just reroute everything. We're going to go from, make America great, America first, to, okay, we're going to have to make everything here because nobody's going to want to sell us anything. We're going to have to buy everything we make because nobody else wants to buy from us. We are dropping into the same kind of hole that Russia dropped into when their economy collapsed, with just not no allies, but very few people in the world that are allied with them. And at this point, I don't know who those people are even going to be. All I know is unions are going to be very important. Cities planning effectively and just demanding that this not continue. And then at some point, convince the people in Congress, maybe start playing a different game. That's all for this one. I'll see you tomorrow.